entertainment.
This is Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Joe knocked away. Draymond picked his pocket. Poole comes up with it. It's a foot race. He spins to the rim and scores! He split J-Dub Williams and Giddey and caught them unawares.
Yeah, Warriors getting the job done in come-from-behind fashion once again as we welcome you inside Warriors Wrap-Up here tonight on 95.7 The Game from Chase Center. It's John Dickinson with you here for the next hour or so. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. That is the phone number to participate in the program, to give me a call or shoot me a text here as the Warriors get a big win, and a win that they absolutely had to have as they rally and they beat Oklahoma City tonight, 136-125. The story of this one, another monster second half and fourth quarter for the Warriors as they outscored the Thunder 34-19 in the fourth, 67-46 in the second half. There was no defense for the Warriors early in this one. 79 first-half points for Oklahoma City, and the Warriors able to hold them to 46, and that does the trick in the second half, and in particular the fourth quarter for Golden State. Stephen Curry, phenomenal. It was a lot of Steph early, and it was a lot of Jordan Poole late as far as the offense went for the Warriors. When you look at Steph Curry, 24 of his 34 coming in the first half, and then Jordan Poole had 18 of his 30 getting the start for Klay Thompson, who was out with the back issue that popped up just before the Warriors warm-up here. And so Poole, slow start, tough start, a lot of difficult moments for Poole, but he, like the Warriors, able to get it rolling down the stretch, 18 of his 30 in the fourth. How about Dante DiVincenzo? Dante DiVincenzo tonight pitching in 16 points and a game-high plus 28. You could make the case that DiVincenzo, for the second consecutive game, like nobody's been better over the two games combined, the loss in Denver and the game tonight, than DiVincenzo, plus 28 for Dante DiVincenzo. And Klay Thompson not being available also meant that there was going to be an extra spot in the Warriors rotation tonight. Now, we'll get to the starting lineup, which was a major whiff for Steve Kerr, but all great head coaches know when they've made a mistake, and they know when they go away from something. And Steve Kerr did that in the second half as the Warriors, he altered things there. But the player that got the extra run, not in the starting lineup, but off the bench because of who else was going to be moving into the starting lineup, was Moses Moody. And Moses Moody stayed ready in the ultimate fashion and provided just a tremendous spark for the Warriors in this game. Moses Moody, 13 points in 26 minutes, knocked down 3 threes. He looked relaxed on offense. He was active on defense, and I think played really, in a lot of ways, differently than he had when he had gotten other opportunities. I don't know whether it's the playoffs being on the brink and the fact that Moody was able to be a relatively productive player in some small stretches for the Warriors by necessity in the playoffs a year ago. He could just be one of those slow breathers as things get bigger. He plays a little bit better, but he just seemed calm and embracing the moment and able to give the Warriors a big-time spark and a boost. So DiVincenzo and Moody, both off the bench on a night where the Warriors' bench was critical in this one as they are able to come back from what was an ugly, and at times the Warriors frankly looked overmatched against this Oklahoma City team and the Thunder offense. A bunch of really good guards and wing players who can all shoot it and attack and have a little bit of a handle, and a Thunder team that you can see where they're among the league leaders in terms of points scored, and a terrific young team that the future is probably going to be really bright for, whether that means a play-in tournament berth this year or not. The Thunder, with all the picks they have coming up and all the young talent they have on that roster, they're going to be a handful for years to come. But the Warriors, in desperation mode tonight, they get the win, and it propels them, at least for the time being, into the 5th spot in the Western Conference playoff race. Warriors up to now 42-38. as Golden State wraps up the home schedule tonight with game number 41 in the Chase Center Hardwood. 33-8 in the 41 games. That's an improvement, believe it or not, over last year for the Warriors as they get it done and win game number 33. And you look at it for Golden State with that big second half, and they end up close of business tonight, given a wild night in the league. And the Warriors got a little bit of help from the team that they're going to see on Friday in California's capital, up 80 apiece in Sacramento. The Kings able to help the Warriors tonight by knocking off the Pelicans and putting the Pelicans into a spot where they are no longer among the glut of teams that have 38 losses. So the Pelicans took their 39th loss, and the Warriors at the end of the night, 42-38, which is good enough to be a half game better than the Clippers and Lakers, who currently are tied for 6th at 41-38. Clippers have the tiebreaker over the Lakers, but those two teams play each other tomorrow. So the winner of that game, because the Warriors don't have the tiebreaker over either of those two teams, the winner of that game is going to move into 5th by virtue of that tiebreaker and drop the Warriors into 6th at the close of business tomorrow. That is a foregone conclusion. The loser is going to be 7th, and the Clippers could even be 8th if the Pelicans win tomorrow. The Pelicans are taking on the Grizzlies. All of those different scenarios in play are much more favorable because the Warriors were able to rally again with the big second half to get the win tonight and beat Oklahoma City by that final count that they were able to do it, 136-125. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson from Chase Center as the Warriors improve to 42-38 on the season. And again, the Warriors now controlling their own destiny with 2 games to go, albeit both on the road. And we know how difficult the road has been for the Warriors this season, and the home road splits and everything else, although they've been a little bit more competitive of late, winning the 2 games in the finale of that road trip before the game in Denver. They were competitive in Denver for a quarter and a half and competitive in the final 3 minutes there with a chance to win that game at the end. But you look at it as far as the Warriors are concerned, and they now do control their own destiny as far as if they can win the last 2 in Sacramento and in Portland, then they know for sure they will avoid the play-in tournament and be in the top 6 in some form or fashion. Now, they could still be as high as 5th, depending upon what happens with the Lakers and Clippers. Those 2 teams, as I said, play each other. Both of those teams play Phoenix between now and the end of the year, as the Suns have not quite, but all but locked up the 4 seed and home court advantage in the first round. And so the Suns could be resting some players, getting ready for whoever winds up going to their building for the beginning of that playoff series. But the one thing the Warriors know, not to get lost in the weeds now, is if they win the last 2, they do again control their own destiny. That thanks to the Kings' win in New Orleans over the Pelicans. And so if the Warriors can win in Sacramento, I don't think the Kings are going to be taking the Warriors lightly, with an opportunity potentially to beat them and knock the Warriors down a peg to where maybe the Warriors wouldn't face Sacramento. But as you look at the way things shook out today, a good night for the Warriors, I think, top to bottom. Could have been a great night if Utah, who rallied from 10 down in the final 2 minutes, had been able to hold on and win in overtime over the Lakers. They weren't, but the key point and number one objective above everything else, this was a must have game for the Warriors, and they get the job done. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570 here on Warriors Wrap Up. Yeah, 79 points allowed in the first half. The defense in the second half did the trick. You got to give Steve Kerr credit. We'll play his post-game press conference as we always do. He made the adjustment. The starting lineup tonight wasn't it. Flat out. He went with Anthony Lamb and Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond Green, and that forward trio has been a positive forward trio for the Warriors this season. But I thought it was a mistake, and I said so at the time on Twitter, to go away from Dante DiVincenzo in the starting lineup. Jordan Poole starting for Klay is a no-brainer with Klay Thompson out with the low back soreness. right before the game was set to begin. So Jordan Poole goes into the starting lineup. That's a no-brainer. DiVincenzo had been starting and was your best player either way in Denver the other night. So to me, you know you're going to need somebody to put a little ball pressure on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think the Warriors were counting on Kuminga to do it, but I wouldn't have even messed with Kuminga. I would have kept Kuminga in there with Draymond, Looney off the bench as the backup, and just put Poole in for Clay. I thought Steve Kerr overthought it tonight. And look, this is not an indictment of Anthony Lamb. I saw Twitter blowing up, people going crazy, Warrior fans about Anthony Lamb getting the start. That's fine. You can have that. That's not the point of the conversation. The point is more about who was taken out of the starting lineup than who was put into the starting lineup. Well, Steve Kerr corrected it in the second half, and Jonathan Kuminga had a really bad first half. Not good for Jonathan Kuminga. 2 of 7. He was erratic. A couple of wild drives for Kuminga that ended in misses. And Steve Kerr went away from him, put the stabilizing force of Looney in there to begin the second half, and went with DiVincenzo over Anthony Lamb. And DiVincenzo immediately sparked this team, hit a couple of shots early in the third quarter. Looney pulling down the offensive rebounds. And Kuminga got the message and went back into the game and provided the Warriors with some good second half minutes. His second half shift, although he wasn't part of the closing group tonight, his second half shift was much better than his first half shift. So you give credit to Kuminga for absorbing that and being able to come back and help this team in the second half with some quality defense and some hustle and some rebounding and the like. So as much as you're thinking, what the hell was Steve Kerr doing with the starting lineup at the beginning of the game? And I was right there with you. He corrected the mistake, and part of correcting the mistake enabled the Warriors to come back, outscore the Thunder 33-27 in the third, and then 34-19 in the fourth to add it all up to the big 11-point win. 888-957-9570. Secret Sauce coming up here in just a moment, but let's get it rolling on the phone lines tonight here on a Tuesday. Home finale with Pat, who is on the Bay Bridge and joining us here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on tonight, Pat?
It was a great game. It was fun to be in the stands and watch it and see action.
Pat, are you there?
Sitting on the bench.
All right, Pat is either no longer with us or I can't hear Pat either way. But we'll try and get reconnected with Pat here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. Again, 888-957-9570, as it is John Dickinson here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game, following a huge Warriors win as they get the job done against Oklahoma City and improve to 42-38 and get their 33rd home win in 41 opportunities. All right, secret sauce of the game. Why'd the Warriors win or lose? What was the deciding factor? The secret sauce of the game brought to you by Proposition Chicken. Fried, flipped, fake. This chicken goes 3 ways. Now available in 8 Bay Area locations, with the newest one being in Novato. And secret sauce is, how about playing a little defense in the second half? The Warriors' defense much more engaged, much more active, much more aggressive in the second half and the fourth quarter, as the Warriors hold Oklahoma City to 19 in the fourth quarter, 46 in the second half, after Oklahoma City laid a drubbing on the Warriors that they really hadn't seen at any point this season. I mean, 79.5. That is ugly, ugly stuff. And whether it was Gilgeous-Alexander or others just having their way with the Warriors' defense, really that whole guard and wing unit for Oklahoma City was doing whatever they wanted, knocking down threes, getting to the free throw line. It was ugly stuff. But the Warriors ramp up the defense in the second half, and the sparks that we mentioned right off the top of the show from Jordan Poole in the fourth quarter, Dante DiVincenzo all game long, but in particular at the beginning of the third quarter. Moses Moody, huge, 13 points and 5 boards. And you got to always give Steph Curry the nod, 34 points for Steph and the 24 of the 34 in the first half. And Steph had the look of a guy that wasn't going to allow the Warriors to lose in that first half. And I think you got to give Steph a nod, because the display that he put up when nobody was really doing much in the first half and the Warriors were down Klay Thompson, and you're thinking, well, how do the Warriors usually win these games when they rally? Somebody's going to have to get hot down the stretch. You got one fewer option with Klay being out of this game, but Steph in the first half in particular had the we're not going to be denied kind of look, and the Warriors were never down more than they were at the half, the 10-point deficit at 79-69. But if this thing had gotten up to 16, 18, 20, as we've seen the Warriors fall behind 16, 18, 20 in different home games this year, I think tonight is a game with the way Oklahoma City was cooking. They wouldn't have won this game if they had gotten down by 16, 18, 20, despite the big fourth quarter. So that, your secret sauce of the game. Brought to you by Proposition Chicken. Again, fried, flipped, fake. This chicken goes 3 ways. Available in 8 Bay Area locations, with the newest one being in Novato. 888-957-9570. 888-957-9570. Warriors wrap up here with JD on 95.7 The Game, as the Warriors wind up winning this one as they get the job done. And really no drama. There was drama a little bit toward the beginning of the fourth quarter. Warriors again trailing going to the fourth quarter, but there really wasn't drama in the final 3-4 minutes with the Warriors putting this thing away and Oklahoma City waving the white flag, and the Warriors able to get some subs in there for the final minute and a half to 2 minutes. But yeah, Golden State doing the job and doing the job in a big way in that fourth quarter, where they had the Thunder frustrated and the crowd was getting into it. And Gary Payton II, I think, is also somebody who kind of wondering what was going on with Payton a little bit in the first half. He didn't totally look healthy the other night in Denver, and his minutes were not at the level that you would expect his minutes to be. And I wonder, is there a higher end for Gary Payton II as far as the total minutes that maybe the Warriors haven't really pushed him to yet? And I look up at the end of the night tonight, and he only played 4 minutes in the first half, 13 in the second half, but he ended up right at that same 17-minute mark that basically is his average. And I was just wondering, maybe Payton's – there's going to be days where he's feeling better, he's not feeling better, he's able to help this team at a higher level than others. But I was kind of wondering in the first half what was maybe going on with Gary Payton II. And if maybe physically was part of the deal as far as Gary Payton II not being available or not being out there as much. I know the rotations got a little bit wonky for Steve Kerr, different rotations with a different starting lineup and Klay Thompson out, and trying to adjust to that on the fly. It felt a lot like the Warriors were, hey, you're going to start this starting lineup. It didn't work, and then they were just in adjust on the fly mode for most of that first half, and in the second half they were able to get the rotation and get everything right. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. We'll go ahead and pause here a little bit earlier than usual. We'll hear from Steve Kerr. We'll hear from Jordan Poole as the Warriors get the win over the Thunder, and you heard it right here on 95.7 The Game.
U.S. Bank is ranked #1 in customer satisfaction with retail banking in California by J.D. Power. Since California is home to most award shows, we've prepared a thank you speech.
To Californians everywhere, we've been proud to help you plan, budget, and save smarter. Our goal tracking and budgeting tools would have no place to shine if it weren't for you, and we can't thank you enough for that. And thank you to our real-life humans who go above and beyond for our customers every day.
Bravo, U.S. Bank! Bravo!
For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Member FDIC.
Kelley Blue Book is the one-stop shop for pricing, fixing, selling, and instant cash offering. Instant cash offer is exactly what it sounds like. An official offer to buy or trade your car. Woohoo! Just enter your VIN or license plate, answer a few questions about your car's history, and what kind of...
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, big night for Dante DiVincenzo. Warriors rally and beat the Thunder, 136-125. John Dickinson back here inside Chase Center, 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson here again, Warriors Wrap-Up at 95.7 The Game. Let's get to the phone lines. Back to the phones we go. Let's get it rolling here, this segment with Skills in Vallejo next here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on tonight, Skills?
Hey, good evening, John. Thanks for having me on. It's good
and I'm not here on Skills, so I think we are having Sterling that issue with the phones. So we'll put Skills on hold, and we'll try to figure out the phone send or the mix minus as to why I'm not getting Skills in Vallejo here on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. We'll try to rack these phone calls up. Hopefully we can take them here between now and 11:15 or 11:30 here on 95.7 The Game as the Warriors. A lot of questions about the seeding for Golden State. And the Warriors, again, close of business tonight. They are the 5 seed, but again, the Lakers and Clippers, who are tied right now beneath the Warriors, a half game back. They play each other tomorrow down in Los Angeles, and so the winner of that game will even their record with the Warriors' record, and both of the LA teams have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Warriors. So the Clippers have it on division record. The Lakers have it on head-to-head, but both those teams own the two-way tiebreaker against the Warriors. And so if the Clippers win, they go to 5th. Warriors go to 6th. Lakers dip to 7th. If it goes the other way, the Lakers would move into 5th at the close of business tomorrow with the Warriors 6 and the Clippers 7 and potentially even 8 because they could end up in a tie with the Pelicans tomorrow depending on what the Pelicans do. But either way, the one thing we know no matter what happens tomorrow is it's not going to be decided as to what the Warriors seeding ultimately is tomorrow. All right, let's give it another shot with Skills in Vallejo here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on, Skills?
Hey, good evening, John. You got me this time?
I got you this time, loud and clear.
Excellent. Good to be on with you again, sir. Hey, I wasn't so optimistic heading into the night when I found out Clay was going to miss the game because I kind of predicted he was going to go for 49 points tonight. He's had some great games against Oklahoma this year. He shot better against them than anybody, any opponent except for the Rockets and Spurs this year. And when he was declared out, I wasn't feeling too optimistic. But, hey, the Warriors, as they've been doing lately, they fell behind, and then they put together a better second half and pulled it out. That's 3 home games in a row. If they've done that, I'm not, I'd rather they didn't fall behind early, but at least they're coming back in the end, playing well, being up when it matters most, and beating these teams they need to beat because they're going to need every single win of the last few games they got left down the stretch. But the other reason I called was I want to ask you, John, because you are probably the most measured and reasonable host at 95.7 The Game that all times I've ever listened to, except when it comes to Rob Manfred, but that's another story. So I want to ask you what you thought, seriously, legitimately, about the Warriors' chances of how far they're going to advance in the postseason. And thank you for taking my call.
Okay, sounds good. Let's address some of the initial stuff first, and I think I'm going to come back to the big picture conversation because, once I get rolling, I can kill 5 minutes in the blink just kind of rambling on. But as far as Clay being out, that definitely made the game funky. And I thought this had a pretty good chance of being kind of a drama-free Warriors win tonight, just based on the fact that while the Thunder can score, they also tend to give up points. And I thought the Warriors were going to come out and get off to a better start. But Clay going out right before tip definitely changed a lot of different things. Kerr changed the starting lineup. Anytime you add or subtract somebody from a group that's been playing consistently with the Warriors, it seemingly throws them off at least for a half. Sometimes it throws them off for 3 or 4 games before they get everything back in order the way they want it to be. And obviously there isn't enough time to play around with having things mess with you for 3 or 4 games. But they were able to find a way and overcome it. And as far as the comebacks go, they're fun, they're needed. The crowd gets into it when this team gets down and they start to come back, and you can feel Chase just explode. And by the way, the Warriors selling out every game again here this season at Chase Center. But I got to tell you, as far as the comebacks go, I don't care who you play in the playoffs. I don't think you're able to come back in more than one game, let's say, out of 3. If you're from big time down. I know it was only 10 tonight. It felt like more. And the Warriors didn't have a lead until they were up 110 to 108 in the fourth quarter. But I don't care whether you play Sacramento or Phoenix or Memphis, Clipper. It doesn't matter. You're not coming back from double digits down 2-3 times in a playoff series on your home floor. It's just asking for trouble. And so they do have to figure out, and maybe just being in the playoffs and the appropriate fear that goes along with it, and the juice that comes with, hey, this isn't the regular season anymore, carries them through, and they're able to focus and hone in on their opponent. We've seen them do it so many different times through the years. But the comeback thing is fun and great and needed, but I also think it is a recipe to get beat, really, no matter who you play. If you're going to be looking to do it repeatedly. Again, you could do it once, maybe twice in a series, but it's not something you want to be playing around with. And that's even if you play a team like Sacramento. I know the popular opinion here lately is, hey, everybody wants to play Sacramento, and the Warrior fans want to play Sacramento and all of that. I'm going to tell you right now, Sacramento can put 80 on you in a half if you're not locked in. If they're a lot like the Thunder, and they're probably a better shooting, more skilled version of the Thunder, as far as they can do a lot of the things the Thunder did to the Warriors tonight and then some. And so, I mean, you saw the Warriors put 89 on them, and then they came back and damn near won the game on the night where the Warriors put 89 on them in a first half. So that's the flip side to it. But again, it's just, the key point here is the comebacks over and over, I think are, again, you take it because you needed it, but that's no way to live come playoff team time if you expect to be living for a month or even 2 months to make a legitimate run. Skills, I'm going to double back on that big picture question, but I do want to keep it rolling here on the phones and get Robin in San Francisco in next here on Warriors Wrap Up. What's going on tonight, Robin?
Hey, JD, thank you. Hey, JD, thank you for always taking my call. A couple of points here really quick. I would like to say that, Clay being out, I didn't feel one way or the other. I kind of disagree with Skill and others. I actually like when Jordan Poole plays in the shooting guard position along Steph. I've seen it work. It was quite effective in some of the playoff games last year. I mean, you could tell me if I'm wrong, but I actually think it was great, and I like the way that that Steph trusted Jordan Poole on the floor. Just him and Poole working together to make that win happen. Also, I'd like to just give a shout-out to OKC. They're pretty damn good. They got some talent, JD. Them boys can ball, and they were playing defense, and we were lucky really to win this game. And they were being physical with the Warriors, and I think others will be physical with the Warriors. And the youngins that they played tonight, I think they showed why, Steve hadn't been playing them, because they just could not play without fouling. The Warriors' defense is atrocious, and they're going to need to play better defense to win because of their limitations. I'm sorry, JD. That game was unwatchable at certain points of the game. Great comeback, yeah, but let's just face it. That defense is horrible. Peace out, sweetie.
Thank you. It was some of the worst defense the Warriors have played this season. In any individual game, there's no doubt about that. And yeah, the Thunder are going to be really good. I'm with you. They're a team that may or may not make the play-in tournament. They're still hanging on by a thread. They've lost, I think, 6 of their last 8 now, after they had basically put themselves in position kind of out of nowhere. It looked like they had maybe given up a little bit toward the end of February, but they've been able to rally through toward the end of March, and then now they've kind of let go of the rope a little bit, or they've been in some regular season games that have felt like playoff games for them, and they haven't been able to win them to varying degrees. As far as the defense is going to have to be better tonight, though, I thought the defense was just more about the matchups, but also the lineups that the lineup changes and having things thrown off a little bit before tip off. But I don't know. I mean, OKC put 140 on them a couple of weeks back in Oklahoma City, and the Warriors ended up losing that game. So, I mean, they're just a team that can score, and they're a team that's very skilled and athletic both, and a team that's definitely got a bright future. As far as Poole, Poole's very comfortable starting. The thing that Poole isn't comfortable with is it takes him a while when he goes from starting to not starting again to get himself back into position to where he can contribute at the level that the Warriors need him to off the bench. The other thing is it's the back and forth. It's the in and out. The other part is, as far as Steph did trust him in the fourth quarter. And there were times where Steph was, hey, you know what? You take it. You've got the matchup. You're hot. You take it. You go get it. Close this thing out. I know there were a couple people on the Comcast business text line talking about, well, no Klay Thompson tonight. There were more shots to go around and all of that. And, there's some truth to that. But, look, you'd still rather have one of the great shooters in the history of the game. I think, if anything, that's just more of a statement to Klay has to pick his spots, especially early in the game. I think one thing that has gotten a little bit old and problematic at times is how many shots Klay's taken early in the game. A little more patient, ball movement, spread it around a little bit early in the game, get everybody involved, and then, if you get hot, by all means, keep throwing them up there. But I think at times there still has been those little spurts, those little pockets of impatience from Klay Thompson, and almost as if he's chasing something on some of those nights where maybe he's a little bit cold early. I think that's popped up again to a certain extent. All right, keep it rolling. Mike in San Francisco next here on Warriors Wrap-Up. What's going on, Mike?
What's going on? Yeah, we'll talk about the Warriors' reason for concern with this team right now. I know the comebacks are exciting, and they are a different animal there at Chase with that crowd, and they've done it all year, minus a couple slips up here and there. But going back to the Philly game, they basically haven't put together a full game, and we know how much the Warriors struggle away from Chase. So I know they didn't have Klay tonight, but still, you got a young Oklahoma City team. I know they're up and coming, but you really have to have a Curry. I know was incredible, and Poole was lights out there in the fourth quarter, taking over that game. It's just I just don't like the way the Warriors really connecting, not being able to put a full game here as playoff time is crunching. And from my viewpoint, I think they're better off playing 60 because the way the Phoenix looks right now with KD back, I just don't see the Warriors winning a game in Phoenix. And I think that's the thing that's going to come back to bite them. They haven't showed consistently all year they can win a road game. Everybody thinks they can flip a switch. Not this team. They're not the same team defensively, and they're just not as good top to bottom. So I don't think there's any flip to switch. So I hope they prove us all wrong. But how do you view them even at home? I know they're incredible. 33 wins is still incredibly impressive, but they still needed a rally and make all these comebacks. And minus that T-Wolves game where they gagged it there at the end, they've been able to do it. But do you think they can take this sort of mojo here, because they're going to probably end up going on the road here, whoever they play in the first round, and really put this into effect? What are your thoughts on that? Thanks for the time.
Yeah, look, I'm with you on Phoenix. I think, and you'd rather be the 6th seed. I mean, look, to me, you'd rather play the Kings than the Suns. It's no disrespect to the Kings. I've said that they're going to be one of the least experienced teams, if not the least experienced playoff team this season. The Suns are going to have a 2-time Finals MVP and a couple other dudes who have been to the Finals recently with that team, and that's just a tougher matchup without having home court advantage. Now, that being said, Mike, I was talking about this a little bit when you were on hold. The comeback stuff, as far as I'm concerned, is dangerous in the playoffs. But again, you got to play better earlier in the games, and I think the Warriors, that's where they do get some benefit of the doubt because of the championship pedigree and all of that. The championship pedigree isn't that they're going to keep coming back over and over and over when they get down in these games. The championship pedigree is that they're going to play with more of a purpose earlier on. And, each one of these games sort of has their own individual story as to why it takes place. I do think tonight was a little bit more about the lineup getting junked around with Klay being out and DiVincenzo Kerr took out, which I thought was foolish. And then, Lamb ends up starting the game. And while, I think at times people have maybe been a little too down on Anthony Lamb, I thought that was like what? Like that, starting Anthony Lamb tonight has like that made no sense. And again, less about Anthony Lamb and more about taking Dante DiVincenzo, who's been one of the Warriors' best players over the course of the last month and a half, out of the starting lineup when you already are down one of the Splash Brothers. Like, to me, that just didn't make a lot of sense. And so, the Thunder, as the season went on, too, I think have become more of a bad matchup against the Warriors. And they look a little bit more confident against the Warriors as well. That's a skilled, young, athletic team. So, again, the championship pedigree isn't just the continued ability to come back and win at all costs. That's part of it, but it's also the fact that you're not going to put yourself in those positions as much over the course of a playoff series. And look, they've won a road game in every single playoff series that they've been in since Steph, Clay, and Draymond have played together, going all the way back to 2013. They've won at least one road game in every single series. I think that streak's up to 26 now. And so I think there's a confidence that they can go get one. And this gets talked about a lot, that just because you go get one doesn't mean you're going to win all your home games either. And so you may have to get two. You may have to get two. You may get one of the first two, and then you come home and lose, and you got to win the fifth one or the seventh one at that point on the road. And I think the Warriors are even confident that they can do that. But that's the thing about not having home court advantage. It's not necessarily about whether you can get one. It's can you get two? And the Warriors in a lot of these series, only three where they've started on the road in the Steve Kerr era, they've been able to get one, but they don't. You might end up having to get two along the lines here, and that's where they end up playing Sacramento. It wouldn't surprise me if they come back to Chase and it's a 1-1 series. It wouldn't surprise me if they go back to Sac and it's a 2-2 series, and then you got to win a Game 5 or a Game 7. And at that point, and hold serve in the Game 6. And so this is going to be a wild ride. And that's even with Andrew Wiggins back. And it was great to see Andrew Wiggins back in the building and addressing the media and seemingly happy with at least some of the weight of this personal family matter that he's been dealing with off of him, at least to a point where he can get back and be around his teammates. And at some point here, once he gets with the training staff in the next few days, they'll start to establish some semblance of a timeline. Like, that's price of admission if this team's going to make a run. But I do think they have a shot, going back to Skills' point. I think they've got a shot. If they're whole, I do see them, and that means with Wiggins, and it doesn't mean Wiggins has necessarily got to be a 35-minute-a-night player in that first round, but if he can be a useful player, a positive player in that series, if the Warriors end up playing the Kings, I think they win that series, and then we'll see what happens with Memphis after that. If they end up somehow fifth and play Phoenix, I think that's a different conversation. Do you want your path to be Sacramento and Memphis, and then maybe Denver/Phoenix in the conference finals, or would you rather have it be Phoenix and then Denver, and then one of those other teams is waiting for you at the back end of it in the Western Conference Finals? I mean, that's the part where I think the preferred path would be the 6-3, 2-7 half of the bracket. But the reality is, and we've talked about this a lot here the last few days, the Warriors can't mess around with trying to manipulate it. At least right now. I mean, we'll see. They look like they're in a good position tonight at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. They don't play again for darn near 72 hours Friday night in Sacramento. That game could be an absolute must-win to avoid the play-in tournament by the time that the Warriors end up playing that game in Sacramento. Now, who knows? Maybe some things shake their way between now and Friday night, and it goes in a different direction, and the Warriors don't necessarily need that game as much. We'll see, but I have a feeling they're going to need it in a big-time way. All right, let's pause here for our ID. We'll get to one more phone call and the hardest worker of the game as well, but let's pause here on 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco. Always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app.
All right, thanks to Steve Kerr there. 888-957-9570. John Dickinson on Warriors Wrap-Up. Warriors 136, Thunder 125. Some text messages to get to as well. But let's go to Rich Ray in Richmond. What's going on, Rich Ray?
JD, thanks for taking my call, man. I just tuned in about 5 minutes ago. I think I heard the tail end of Robin. She always gets my attention, so I'll keep it short. So basically, with GP back, I listened to the game with Tim Roy. I haven't heard about as much as a team coming down the court, going coast to coast, scoring a layup. I've seen GP miss a three, or I heard him miss a three, and then Tim Roy was like, hey, GP's right there to meet him, right beyond half court. And then the other thing is the Wiggins factor is huge. And I think a lot of us Warriors fans are Wiggins is such a silent guy. We don't understand that he's probably our best defensive player on the team. Now, I don't want to shade Draymond and all that, but Wiggins is our wing, our power forward, even if he's not really a power forward. Like, he's going to add so much defensively. So to have him back, we're looking at going full steam in the next couple of games. We got GP stopping the coast to coast. Wiggins is going to guard our greatest player. That's going to allow Draymond to really focus on being his playoff defensive player of the year. And we let our guys shoot from there. I think we actually still got a chance. I'll keep it short. I'll take your thoughts off of here.
Yeah, I think that's the template. I mean, you laid it out, Rich Ray. I mean, it is, Wiggins, he may not be the best complete defender, but he is the best on guards. He's the best on the little guards, best ball pressure defender I think the Warriors have, without a doubt. And I think he's also probably the best just because of his youth and his athleticism and his length. Now, Peyton's obviously really good, but he's also the guy that you can put on a wing that gets rolling. And I think, we'll see what I guess the best way to put it is Wiggins is the dude you'd put on Durant, and Wiggins is also the dude you'd put on De'Aaron Fox. and Wiggins is the dude you'd put on Kawhi. So it's, whether it's a point guard that gets up and down at a fast rate, that's Wiggins' guy, or if it's the wing that's going to have the ball in his hands a lot and having to make big shots, that's Wiggins' guy as well. So, yeah, he does have the ability and the youth and the energy and the length to be able to do that. So, that's the template. And you trust Wiggins' offensive game enough now to where, it's not like if Peyton's out there, you're wondering what you're going to get offensively. If Kuminga's out there, you wonder what you're going to get offensively. That basically when Kuminga functions at a high level offensively, it's based on what everything else is going on around on the court. The system, allows him, if he makes the right plays, to get easy buckets. You don't always know if you're going to get that. It's the same thing with Gary Payton II. Wiggins is good enough, two-way Wiggs, where you don't have to worry about his offense to have him out there with the other regulars and play defense. And so that, I think, becomes key, and we'll have to see. I think that also gives the three-guard lineup a little bit more of a shot. There's been a lot of this, three-guard lineup. And I know the three-guard lineup with Steph, Clay, and Poole has not been as good as it was in stretches last year. But I think having Wiggins and Draymond as the two defenders really helped make that work. And now you pepper in a little bit of DiVincenzo. Look, I think this team is older. I think they're going to be tireder. They're going to have to find energy in different places. In a lot of these series, they're probably going to have to play longer series this year than they did last year. I think all of those things are very, very true. But I think you could also make the case that the template is there for, now you got Wiggins who's back in the starting lineup. Now you got Peyton who can help you. DiVincenzo's a cog you didn't have. You could make a case Kuminga's more playable this year than he was last year. I don't think it's beyond a case, although I will say when Wiggins comes back, Kuminga's the guy to keep an eye on as to does his minutes shrink a little bit. And so, I think that's how you'd want it to be if you're the Warriors and you start thinking about getting Wiggins back in the fold here over the course of the next week and then leading up to the playoffs. I also think it's another statement as to why avoiding the play-in tournament is huge, because if the Warriors can somehow get through this week and win the next two games to get into the tournament, qualify in the top six, and not have to play Wiggins in the next couple of days, let him ramp up the rest of this week and then have a full week of practices before the playoffs start. The playoffs don't start till the 15th, Saturday the 15th. So you think of this Saturday that's coming up, 4 to 5 days away? It's the following Saturday. So you could be looking at a 10, 12-day ramp-up for Wiggins to get himself ready to roll for playoff game number 1, depending upon who the Warriors play. All right, let's get to our hardest working player of the game. And as always, our hardest worker of the game is brought to you by AC Transit.
Second free throw in and out. Moody got the rebound. Goes up and dunked it. He dunked it in traffic.
Manly.
Wow. Man-like move for Moody.
Yeah, Moses Moody, easy call tonight. Moses Moody, hardest worker. And what do they say? Moses Moody stayed ready, so he didn't have to get ready to be ready. I might have messed that up, but something along those lines. But that's Moses Moody. He was ready to roll, even though he hadn't been called upon at the level that he was tonight, and the door opened. Anytime there's a major player in a rotation out, that means somebody who hasn't been playing is going to get an opportunity. I thought maybe it would be Ty Jerome, who was active and can be active for these last 3 games. Now that the final 3 games after he's been inactive for a while would put him at 50. But Steve Kerr went with Moses Moody, and Steve Kerr was rewarded by what Moses Moody provided. The 5 of 7 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3. I mean, that's really what it is. It's playing calm. He had 5 boards, but to me, the game changer is when he's able to actually knock down shots, because at times his offensive game just looks so rushed and he's out of sync. And he's a little too wound up defensively, so he reaches and he gets off balance and he commits fouls. It was just a much more comfortable, calm, collected, composed Moses Moody tonight. And does this mean he's going to be getting playoff rotation minutes? Probably not, but he wasn't part of the playoff rotation plan last year, and based on injuries and other players maybe being ineffective, he did get thrown in some small stretches of a couple of playoff games last year and did help. So, he won't be an every night member, I think, at this stage, and you're not going to want to miss what Steve Kerr had to say about Moody in his post-game press conference. We'll get to a little of that here coming up in just a moment. But yeah, Moses Moody, your hardest worker tonight, easy call. And again, brought to you by AC Transit. AC Transit looking for hard workers and offering a $2,000 bonus for new bus operators and journey-level mechanics to join their team. For complete details and to apply, visit actransit.org/careers. That's actransit.org/careers. All right, let's hear a couple of minutes of Steve Kerr as he met with the media post-game following this one.
Gave up 79 points in the first half. I can't imagine you were too thrilled with that. What happened defensively in the second half? I think you limited to 49, something like that.
This team is very capable of doing what they did in the first half. I've watched them, a lot this year. They're a really good young team, and they're tough to guard because they usually have 4 guys at about 6'7" who can all dribble, pass, and shoot. It's a really impressive group of young players, and Shea is almost impossible to keep out of the paint. So they were hitting everything, and I think they had 21 free throws in the first half. And we just did a better job in the second half of getting some ball pressure and picking up our intensity.
Steve, when did Clay's back kind of become an issue?
Just right before our walkthrough. So
okay,
yeah, it was late. Totally unexpected.
Okay,
it just flared up.
You got a great lift. I mean, Moses, Dante, your backcourt guys gave you a lot, even without him. How important was that? Moses, a stretch there in the third, and just those guys doing their thing.
Moses and Dante off the bench were both huge. Moses, I can't say enough about this young guy, the way he has prepared and worked, and he's so mature. And over the last couple of weeks, you could really see the improvement and the confidence and the strength around the basket. And, I think I told you guys this, but when I talked to him, Bob and I talked to him a couple of months ago and asked him how he was doing with not playing much. And he said, look, I chose to develop in the NBA, not at Arkansas. If I was at Arkansas, I'd be playing. But I chose to develop in the NBA, and this is part of it. Like the most mature answer I've ever heard anybody give. But that's who he is. He's just a really mature young guy, and he gets it. A lot to learn. And but he puts in the work. He puts in the time. He's got an incredible attitude, and the work is paying off, and he's getting better. And tonight he was one of the keys to the game.
Steve, how do these fourth quarter comeback, second half comebacks. You guys have had a lot of them this year at home after slow starts. How do they affect the aging process?
To be honest, I age a little bit more on the road, believe it or not, Monty. No, it's so much fun to play at home in front of our crowd. We have such a connection, with what has happened here over the last decade, and I think we thrive off of the energy in this building and in front of our fans, and you can see the competitiveness, the force that comes from Draymond and Steph, Looney, the guys who have been here a while. They understand, these games take a long time. 48 minutes is a lot of basketball. And with our ability to get stops and then how that translates to guys like Steph and Jordan and Clay getting hot at the other end, we feel like we're always in the game.
Steve, it looked like you moved Steph off the ball in the fourth quarter and created the space for Jordan. We obviously know he can do that, but a lot of it is decision-making, making the right reads. What did you see from his choices tonight, the shot selection and when to drive, et cetera?
He was so good, that last quarter and a half, just scoring, getting to the rim, decision-making. It wasn't like I told Steph anything. We just made a couple of play calls where, Jordan had the ball and something good happened, and Steph, being who he is, he just gave the ball to Jordan. He said, you take it. He was hot, and we were scoring every time. And so that's we just stayed with JP, and Steph, was leading the charge on that front. So JP was amazing.
Steve, you talked in Denver of how you sort of embrace the playoff face and checking the standings all the time. And it's now down to you win your last two games you're in. How much does that matter not to have to worry about getting help and the fact that it is now completely in your hands?
Yeah. I mean, we got some help tonight in that regard. And, we'll be watching games tomorrow night, and it's fun. This is all, what it's about. We love the competition, and even though we'd prefer to be, home free in the playoffs right now, this is where we are, and I'm really proud of the guys, what they've done here in recent weeks to put ourselves in this position. But now we got to go finish the deal and, get into the top six.
And the Warriors can get into the top six if they can win their final two games, Friday in Sacramento, Sunday afternoon in Portland. But it won't be easy. The Kings helped the Warriors out a little bit tonight by beating the Pelicans in New Orleans and ended up being a blowout tonight. 121-103, Sacramento won at New Orleans. So that was the Pelicans' 39th loss. As we look at the standings here to close the night out, the Pelicans dip now to 8th at 40-39. Still jumbled up. Minnesota got a win in Brooklyn to improve to 40-40. And so they are 9th currently. The Lakers got an overtime win after blowing that 10-point lead late to Utah. They won by 2 in overtime. So the Lakers are 41-38. The Clippers are 41-38. The Clippers have beaten the Lakers 3 times out of 3. They play their 4th and final head-to-head tomorrow night in Los Angeles. So the Clippers have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Lakers, but the winner of that game will be a game up on the other, and the winner of that game will then tie the Warriors for 5th in the West, and both the Lakers and Clippers. So it doesn't matter who wins tomorrow, both the Lakers and the Clippers are going to be ahead of the Warriors on the tiebreaker because both currently have the tiebreaker over Golden State. And so close of business tonight, Warriors in 5th. We know for sure, regardless of what happens tomorrow, the Warriors will be close of business in 6th, and what would be a matchup with a handful of days to go against the Sacramento Kings. All right. How about that answer, by the way, before we call it a night, from Steve Kerr on Moses Moody and just the maturity of having the understanding to know that this is part of what he signed up for in coming to the NBA, and that means you're going to have to develop in a different way. You can develop in college playing 30 minutes a night and dominating and maybe being a little bit more NBA ready by the time you come into the league, or you can come into the league and learn and develop the NBA game and all the fits and starts and not playing and maybe playing a little bit and needing to stay ready so you don't have to get ready to be ready. Kind of thing is going to be part of the deal. That's pretty impressive stuff from a guy like Moses Moody. I mean, that really is impressive stuff. And I mean, Moses Moody is still 20 years old. Moses Moody is still 20 years old, and so that is really, really impressive. Final couple of minutes here to just kind of wrap things up. And there was one text message I wanted to get to before we called it a night. Comcast Business text line. JD, when Wiggins comes back, we're not looking at JK or anyone else's minutes. We're just looking at the 5 starters, GP2, DiVincenzo, and Jordan Poole. We don't care about anyone else. Not quite going to be that cut and dry, but I do think, that those 8 plus Kuminga, I know I get chastised a lot because I always kind of consider Kuminga the 9th among that group when this team is fully whole. Still going to play every night, I think, in some form or fashion, but can he fit his game into the effectiveness box that has been so troublesome for him at times when he doesn't get the playing time to work through mistakes and play freely and really read the game? I do think that's going to be a key for him in the playoffs. And look, guys get hurt, and that opens the door. JaMychal Green might get some minutes. Anthony Lamb might get some minutes. Kuminga, again, I do think is in the rotation, although I have him penciled as the 9th man, pending matchups with GP. And GP's only playing 17 minutes. So Kuminga's going to have to play and be an on-ball defender some of the time as well. Like and I'm just going to say it, and we'll close it out on this note. Kuminga's going to be in the playoff rotation game 1. There's no doubt about it, because Peyton isn't going to be somebody that's playing 25 to 30 minutes, even on the nights where maybe the Warriors need his level of defense. So he's going to have to split some of his time with Kuminga regardless. And they both basically guard the ball defensively, and they both basically play the 4 offensively, although, yes, there will be fewer opportunities with Wiggins as he continues to ramp up and get himself healthier. All right, we'll call it a night on that note. Great stuff. Some great calls, some great text messages. Appreciate everybody who joined on YouTube and Twitch as well, as the Warriors get the job done tonight against the Thunder. They win 136-125. I will be back with you on Friday from Golden One Center in Sacramento in what could be a playoff preview and certainly a big game for the Warriors, as I will be on hand from Sacramento for that one. Warriors Live begins at 6, and then the Warriors and the Sacramento Kings to go at it in what could be the first of, 6 or 7 times they play each other over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. But that could be, and so funny, these two teams haven't played since November the 13th, but could be playing a lot here moving forward. Again, Warriors Live at 6 with yours truly from Golden One Center in Sacramento. Thanks to Sterling Bennett. Thanks to everybody in our San Francisco studios. Warriors get the job done. They beat the Thunder 136-125, and you heard it all right here on 95.7 The Game.
Men, experience the benefit of Gainswave acoustic shockwave treatment to increase mood, energy, sleep, and blood flow circulation. Total body enhancement is a phone call away. Connect at gentlemanhealth.com or call 408-909-0291.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs now in effect